Now, before we move on to some more complicated parts, I'd like us to basically get a nice foundation of knowledge of how to move and interact with objects in Unreal's world. So if we look at our left panel over here, you're able to drag primitive objects and spawn primitive objects into our game world. So very simple things like cubes and spheres. Now we'll start off with the cube. So I've dragged this cube into the world. Again, very simply, all I did was pull it over, hold left click and pull it in. And once you highlight any object in Unreal, you'll be able to see these three arrows. One green, one red, and one blue. Now these describe the three axes of movement in the world. You've got your x-axis, which is your red arrow. You've got your y-axis, which is your green arrow, and then you've got your z-axis, which is your blue arrow. Now if you hold left click and pull one of these arrows, you'll be able to move this object in that direction. And this is basically probably the main way that you're going to move objects in Unreal. If you want to be very accurate and make things perfectly aligned, you can either use the snapping tools, which are automatically on, so you can see that that is actually perfectly flush with that floor panel. But you can also use the location coordinates in the right panel, the details panel over here, which are basically at the very top here. I won't go into too much detail about that panel just yet. We'll have a look at that in a little while. So you'll be able to move your object using these arrows. It's a bit hard to see on this particular block here, but if you grab the corner in between these, like so, you can actually move that object in both the X and Y at the same time. So you can pull it around the floor, like so, but it won't ever move up. The same can be said for this corner here, and this corner here. So you've got a lot of freedom of how you can move this object. Now the next stage here is rotating an object, and to change that you need to change your the mode of editing that you're currently in. To start that, you can see up at this top panel here you've got these first three options. We're automatically clicking on the first option here, which is just moving the object. So we need to click on the next object over, which will turn us into rotation mode. So as soon as you click that object, you can see that you get these rotation rings here, and the concept is the same. The red quarter of a circle, I suppose, here will rotate the object on the x-axis, the green one on the y, and the blue one on the z, or around the z, I suppose. Again, snapping is currently on, so it'll only do 10 degrees at a time, but you can turn that off in the options at the very top up here as well. Alternatively, to click in this button here, as you go along you'll start to find nice shortcuts to do things a little bit quicker. So you can actually press E on the keyboard while not clicked on while holding the viewport to quickly switch between modes and switch to the rotation mode. The final mode we need to look at then is actually scaling this object or transforming this object. So it's the option next to rotation, or in this case you can press the R key. So if you press W, you'll go to movement, E to rotation, and R for scaling or transforming. You don't have to remember those. If you're comfortable just clicking the buttons, you're of course welcome to click the buttons. So the same concept again. If you pull on one here, you can scale it in the direction of the X. Same for the Y, and same for the Z. Now by doing this, or having this control, you can already see how you can start making some pretty basic structures using these primitive objects. So just by having this, if I extend this, I can start making perhaps a pillar, a very simple pillar. A nice little trick to be aware of, again, it's a form of shortcut. If you hold the Alt key and pull in a certain direction, it'll actually duplicate your object for you. So rather than me having to remake that exactly, I've held Alt and I've just pulled to the left. So now I've got two pillars. So I'm just going to create this again. So I've now got four pillars. I could then quite easily put a platform on top of these. So if I just pull a new, let's do a cylinder. put a cylinder in. Let's have a little bit of a play with this. I'll get this roughly into the middle. And there you are. 4 pillars holding up some sort of cylindrical platform. Now the character would naturally be standing down here, so this would be quite tall, and you'd need staircases to go up. I won't put that in just now because it's not too important. One big area of, or another big area of game design is the texturing and the materials of these objects. So currently there's no texture really or material really assigned to this. So I'd like to assign one. Let's start with the platform on the very top. Now once you're highlighting your any object, it'll open up the details on the bottom right, so this right hand bottom panel down here. And there's normally quite a lot of details which you can change. Anything from its size, its location, rotation, to the physics of the object and the lighting. At the very top of this, you should see this materials panel. Now, right now you can see it's just got the basic shape material here. If we just click this drop down box, we've got access to all of the materials that are currently in our project. The ones you can see in here come with the starter content, which I told you to enable at in the very first video. So I'm just going to go ahead and for now I'm just going to assign a material here. We're not going to edit how it looks or how it is placed on the object. I'm just going to assign a material. You can either scroll through these, or if you'd like to search for something that you're looking for, let's see, metal, then you can add, or you can search for a texture that way. So I'm going to go for this rust, and you can see straight away it's been placed on this object. You can see there's a little bit of a issue with the way that this is stretched on the side. We're not going to worry about that just now. I'm just going to worry about applying these textures. So I've applied that rust texture, or it looks more like dirt from this angle, I suppose. So let's look at adding a texture for each of these pillars. Because these have all got the same texture, you can quite easily hold shift and click them all to edit them all at the same time. So I'm going to click the material again, and this time I'm just going to scroll down, and let's just say this brick texture here. I'm not a fan of that one actually. Let's go for I'm not a fan of any of these. I'll just go with the first one. Now I don't actually like how much that stretches, so I'm actually going to pull these down just a little bit to make them look a little bit nicer. Again, there's a way to make them look nicer without having to reduce the size of the object itself, but we're not going to worry about that just now. So here we go. I've got 4 pillars, a platform, and the floor. In fact, let's change the floor as well. What's that? There we go. We've got a very basic scene in front of us. So before we actually move on and do something more complex and make something that we actually want to make, before moving on to the next video, could I get you to create a basic house for me? So I'm going to get rid of my platform here, and I'd like you to create just a basic house, something which would block out the light. Now what I would do is basically start by making a somewhat thin wall. That looks about right. And then using that trick by holding the Alt key and pulling it across to make 3 main walls, like so. I'll bring this across a little bit. There we go. As you can see, this isn't quite flush here, so I might have to change the scaling a little bit. Yeah. So I'm going to change the scaling on this one here. I've disabled snapping on the scale. There we go. That's fine that side, and it looks fine that side as well. So I'm going to turn it back on. Now you're going to need multiple pieces just for this front part here, because I'd like you to also make an area for a door to be present. Just leave it open for now though. So pull this across like so, attach it there, and put it across, attach it there, and then I'll just get a nice piece for the middle here. Perfect. There you go. So you can see how I've created, just about anyway. You can see how I've created a very simple square structure. There's no roof, so I'd like you to put a roof on there. And have a little explore. Have a look in the starter content. So if you click on starter content and go into the props, there's little things in there like chairs and the tables that you would have seen at the very start. So have a little play around. Make a nice basic structure for me. Something that's going to block out lights. So something that when you go inside, it's going to become darker. So you'll need at least a roof. Have a little play around. Make something you're happy with before starting the new video.